Hi everyone, it is Evan here from thetraderisk.com, and in today's video we're going to be discussing how to find leading stocks. Now if you're finding this video just natively on YouTube, we do have a full blog post containing all of the content that we're going to discuss here. So if you rather read that article, see the examples, have the links right in front of you, you can click the link that is appearing in the top right hand of your screen right now. And if this is your first time on our channel, be sure to check out some of the other videos we have. We have lots of other lessons and market updates, trade ideas, things of that nature if that interests you. Also, be sure to check out the description of this video below. You can find all of the links and resources that we talk about in that section below. So without further, let's get into the lesson here. What are leading stocks? That's where we're going to start. And this is a definition that I'm going to try and kind of keep at a high level here, because depending on what type of trader you are, the time frame, and how you approach markets, you're going to have a slight variation of a leading stock. So there's a few key characteristics, and we're going to talk about them in just a second. So first off, a leading stock is just another phrase for a strong stock. That means a stock that's moving up, that's clearly outperforming other names. It's generally in an uptrend. And those are the two sort of characteristics that define a leading stock. So it's trading in a well-defined uptrend, and it's at the top of the relative strength list. Those two things generally hand in hand, some more than others on some respects. So, a leading stock can pull back at times, but generally should maintain its uptrend. Doesn't always have to be a number one on the relative strength list, but it could be, in the top 10 or 20%, depending on how you want to define it. If I had to add a number 3 here, it would be persistence of leadership. In other words, persistence of strength. That's, I think, a key kind of defining piece of a leading stock versus just a temporarily strong stock. Okay, so let's continue on here. Back to the time frame situation, I kind of break it down into 3 types of traders here: day traders, swing traders, and position traders. And once again, the leading stocks can mean different things to each groups of these people. So if you're a day trader, you probably only care about stocks leading on this very specific day or perhaps the week. So maybe there's a theme, maybe we're in earnings season and tech has been reporting all strong reports, and that sector in general is seeing leadership, and there's a few names that are doing very well running up into earnings. So a day trader may only care about the very near term, day-to-day action, stocks in play, or stocks that have been working in the last week or so. The swing trader really just kind of extends that time frame out. Generally, the past 4 weeks or so, the past 30 trading days, that's generally what the swing trader is going to care about. Sector rotation, things like that are going to be of interest to the swing trader. And for the position trader, again, broadening out that time frame, 6 months or longer, you really want to know what's carrying this bull market. What is, in this more macro sort of uptrend, if we are in an uptrend, what's been working, and those are the types of names and leaders that they're going to be paying attention to. So again, the time frame is a bit of a variable here depending on what type of trader you are, but in general, uptrend and outperforming the majority of stocks for your specific time frame. That's a leadership stock, and that's what we're going to be talking about finding in this video. So next, why focus on leading stocks? Well, 2 reasons. True leading stocks, they're going to rise at the fastest rate, and they're going to remain resilient in the face of volatility and pullbacks. They are the market leaders. They are the strongest stocks. So if you're looking for names to trade on the upside, if you're a long trader biased, you're going to want to pay attention to the leading stocks. They're going to give you the best sort of either risk-adjusted returns or just bang for your buck returns in general, because they are going to be rising at the fastest rate. There are also going to be stocks that should provide opportunity for a long time to come and not just a one-time setup. Again, persistence here is another sort of characteristic and trait of leading stocks. So in general, a leading stock is something that's going to continue to work and not just be this, perhaps that's a stock that's just getting a slight sort of momentum surge off of earnings or some one-off catalyst. We actually have something that has been accepted by the market and has been in some type of structural uptrend. Those are the things we want to pay attention to, because they're going to have the best opportunity for us. And again, if you're a trader or an investor that is looking to profit from higher prices, which I think is probably the majority of us, then this should be of primary focus in your stock selection process. I think this is something that doesn't get enough attention, and I think it has a tremendous amount of importance in improving, just general ROI and improving strategies by having good stock selection practice. And hopefully we can talk more about that throughout the rest of this video. So how to find market leaders. The good thing is they're not that difficult to find because we know that based on our general definition from above, they're going to be in an uptrend or they're going to be outperforming the majority of other stocks. So based on those two sort of definitions there, we can start to construct scans and searches by looking for stocks in uptrends and things that have relative outperformance. So all of the methods we're going to talk about here are going to be based on a swing or position trader's time frame, and you can just adjust accordingly depending on how you approach the market. So our first way here to find leading stocks is going to be using the 52-week high list. This is the most straightforward way to find leading stocks, and it's published by a handful of different websites. The two most popular are going to be Bar Charts and FinViz. You can go there every single day. You can scan the 52-week high list, and what that list is these are stocks that are trading at their highest price from over the past year of trading. So over the past 1 year, 12 months, 52 weeks, these stocks are at their all-time or are at their 52-week highs. So that generally is just going to give you a good sense of stocks that have some demand there and stocks that are working in the current market environment. So going there every night, checking that list, checking for repeats of that list, because the good leaders are going to persist on that list. You're going to see them continue to kind of make that list day after day, week after week. Those are the names that you're going to want to pay attention to. So that is the first way we can find leaders. The second, find leading stocks by scanning for names that are up big. Again, you can use your favorite scanner, whatever that is, FinViz, TC2000, stock charts, your broker, however you want to do it, but looking at raw percentages returns over a given time frame. So you're going to have to just get those, the thresholds sort of down based on your time frame and approach for the market. But if you're a swing or position trader, over the past month or so, look for stocks that are up 15% or more. That's going to lead you to some strong stocks. If it's up over 15% over the past month, something is there, either some type of catalyst or some potential market leader is in that group. There are some risks from this one. The 52-week high list is a little more robust of a way to find leaders because it's kind of tough to get on that list. You have to be doing, you have to be trading at your past year highs. That's sort of a difficult thing for most stocks. If you're just looking at names that are over 15% in return over a month, based on this example, you can get some false positives, okay? And to illustrate that, if a stock has perhaps been in a long-term downtrend, if it's severely oversold and it gets some type of, some piece of good news, that thing can rip, 10, 20%. Some of those small speculative names that have been crushed, 60, 70% over the past few years, if it gets sort of, a wind of good news, that can really pop, that can show up here, and it might be able to offer up a decent, one-time trade opportunity for you, but it's not going to be a market leader. It's not going to fit the structural uptrend and that relative outperformance for long periods of time, that piece of the definition. So you just need to be careful of that. Also, earnings. Again, you could have a beaten up name or a name that just is mostly flat and hasn't been performing much at all. And if that has a good earnings report, it could have a very solid sort of 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, and that could also put those names on your list when they're not really leaders, but they are potentially momentum plays for over the short term. So you got to keep that in mind. The pros to this type of scan is that you can catch upcoming leaders earlier than many other traders. So this type of scan will definitely find stocks that aren't quite at their 52-week high list, but maybe they're getting there. Maybe they're building up their reputation. Maybe the market is starting to kind of come around to their thesis, and they're starting to firm up and become either new market leaders, rotational market leaders, and that's something that you can find some alpha with if you can identify before many others catch on to this story using this scan. So I think the bottom line here is it's a good additional approach for your toolkit, but you may need some additional due diligence just if you're looking at, stocks up 15% over the past month in a vacuum or whatever your time frame is. So that's number 2. Number 3 is my personal favorite here, finding leading stocks using monthly charts. So again, choose your favorite scanner. I'm very partial to TC2000. I think it's a wonderful scanner, and only look at charts on a monthly time frame. That is tremendously long. Again, this is coming from a swing trader's approach, so that's arguably 1 or 2 time frames up from the standard daily execution. And what I look for are stocks in a uptrend on a monthly chart. So that's going to give me stocks that are in that long-term uptrend. Again, you can use whatever trend filter you want. You could use a 10-period moving average. You could put MACD or RSI on there. As long as the stock is kind of trending up and to the right, I'll let you define, how strong that trend needs to be. But for me, a 10 SMA or even a 20 EMA or something like that is good enough for me. And as long as price is kind of, going in that general up to the right direction on the monthly chart, that's going to be my first base case. And then I just apply some additional personal preferences, just some basic technical factors that I look for. So for me, no major immediate overhead supply. So essentially, I like stocks that are trending up on the monthly time frame, but also don't have a huge range or a big pivot or a failed breakdown right above where price is trading on a monthly time frame. So as long as I know that kind of the coast is clear, we have some clear sailing above us, some blue skies on that big time frame, that's going to give me the check mark that when I go back down to my daily chart and actually execute to get in this trade, I know the coast is clear. I know the big time frame is sort of in my favor, and that should help kind of stack the odds in my favor when I'm trading that instrument. So that's number 1. Number 2, reversal candidates off major support. And again, we're talking about a monthly chart here. So if we know that long-term, multi-year support is at $50 in some stock and we see a sharp reversal off that on the monthly time frame, that might be something that can pique my interest, can be an emerging leader back on that daily swing chart. So that's something I would pay attention to. That's something that would be an added benefit. And in general, a clean historic mover. So I don't want to see a lot of sideways chop on those big time frames. I don't want stagnant stocks that have just gone sideways or really haven't performed in quite a while. I want to see some demonstration of an uptrend and some urgency, some movement there. And by applying those things with a basic trend filter on that long-term chart, I, as a swing trader, can start to maximize my universe of leadership stocks. Okay, now these next 2 slides here, these next 2 points, really we've sort of already touched upon. Monthly charts, these patterns take a while. 1 year is only 12 bars, so they take a while to set up. And when executing on those daily time frames, if you are a swing trader, you're really just you're having that extra confidence that the long-term uptrend and sort of path of least resistance is in your favor. That's the benefit of kind of doing that top-down monthly chart approach. So on to the next one here, find leading stocks using relative strength. So if we were limited to just one indicator, finding leading stocks using relative strength would be the easy winner. And this is not RSI. This is not the momentum indicator that many traders put on their chart, the relative strength index. We're talking about comparative relative strength. So generally speaking, it's going to be versus the S&P 500, or you could choose whatever benchmark you prefer. If you trade a lot of small cap names or high beta names, you may want to use the Russell 2000. The point is we are comparing an instrument or stocks as a basket versus a benchmark, and that is the relative strength that we are discussing here as a approach to find leading stocks. And we're going to show you some examples now. This is TC2000. This is a chart of Apple here on the daily time frame, and if you look at the lower pane there, you see relative strength 1 year versus the S&P 500. That is an indicator that you can apply in TC2000, and you can see up to the right it's north of 100. That means it's outperforming the S&P 500. So that's a leadership stock here based on this time frame and instrument. And if you look at the easy scan window there, you can actually start to scan for names that are outperforming the S&P 500. So you could see, just like I set up that scan there, that's a very base case, but it's saying, show me all the stocks that have a relative strength over 120 versus the S&P 500. You could put that number to 140, 150, depending on how extreme, how much outperformance you demand out of a name. But that is a great way to find leadership stocks on a swing to position trader sort of time frame. If you're to use stockcharts.com, this is another way you can set up ratio charts. So once again, we see Apple here compared to the S&P 500. You can use that colon sign. So it's AAPL with a colon to the S&P 500. And you can see this ratio is up and to the right. That tells you that Apple is outperforming the S&P 500. Believe you can also set up some type of scans here, maybe a little more tricky. You have to get maybe a little more creative with stock charts to try and set up this actual scan, but you certainly can at least visually see relative strength if you construct charts in this manner. So two different ways to find leadership stocks using relative strength, whatever your platform is or whatever scanner that you like to use. Look for that relative strength indicator, or get creative on comparing it versus a benchmark. Maybe you can use absolute return numbers and some type of relative strength or something like that, and you could start to construct these lists for yourself using relative strength. So next on finding leading stocks is using leading sectors. This is also one of my favorites as well. This method requires an extra step of ranking sectors before looking at any stocks, but it can pack a nice 1-2 punch, and it can really get you sort of more selective and just adds a little more refinement to your scanning process. So instead of hunting directly for leading stocks, we're going to start by just looking at what sectors are actually outperforming over this given time frame. So for example, if we go to stockcharts.com, we can go to the performance chart window that they have there. I think this might be a premium option only, so I don't think this is a freely available chart, but you could certainly try. And really what we're just looking at here is a 30 or 28-day window of the major sectors. And we're just looking what's outperforming here over the past month. And in this case, we can see cyclicals and materials have been the leaders. Financials, energy, they're the laggards on the downside. So knowing this information, we can then look at the cyclicals and look at the materials, and we can just start to pan through only those sectors and start to look at the names that are contributing most to their returns. So in other words, we just want to pick out of the cyclicals, what stocks are up the most, what's actually leading the cyclicals higher here, and the same thing for the materials. So it kind of drills down in a nice, sort of top-down approach, and make sure you're with the strongest sector and the strongest stocks. That's a great way to find leadership stocks. So that's the final way there. That's 4 different methods you can use to find leading stocks. And now we're going to talk briefly on how to trade them. And it's very simple. Trading leading stocks is arguably easier than finding them. There's only one thing that you need to know, and it's get involved. And I can't stress that enough. It sounds simple. It sounds funny. But getting involved, once you've figured out that a stock is a leadership stock, once you've qualified it in whichever way you want to go about it, the most important thing is really just to get involved. I've come to realize over the years, waiting for the perfect setup is not nearly as important as just getting in there. And, part of that is really just because strong leading stocks typically do a really good job at keeping the majority of people out. They're always looking like they're either going to start to roll over, but they always somehow find a bid, and they just generally don't offer, picture perfect reversals or some types of setups. Sometimes they do, but again, it's an opportunity cost to be out of those names. If you're bullish on something, you should really have a piece in it. Otherwise, clearly, the conviction isn't actually there, or you haven't done your full due diligence on qualifying it as a leadership stock. So get involved, take that half size position. Don't kind of continue to, don't just keep saying, I want to wait for a pullback. I want to wait for a pullback, because chances are, 4 or 5 months could go by and it could be 30% higher before that pullback eventually comes. So wrapping up, in summary here, finding leading stocks should be a routine that every active trader and investor makes time for. I do think that this is something that gets overlooked quite a bit, or just doesn't get the discussion that it deserves, because I think being in the right stocks is certainly half the battle. It can really increase, the ROI of your strategy, as opposed to, tweaking exact precise entries, whether or not you're going to get in a stock when the 19 period crosses the, 38 and a half period. Just making, spending that time to actually, do your due diligence on the stock selection process will yield greater performance for you in the long run. I carve out personally a day a week, generally the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, to run through my process for finding leading stocks and market leaders. And it really helps me just prepare for the week ahead. And it also just, kind of fills up my watch list. I know what I'm going into for the next week. I know what names I want to pay attention to, potentially get involved in. And that's sort of the way I structure it. But depending on how active you are, you may need to scan through things every day, every week, every month. So find what fits for you and just kind of stick with it. And hopefully this video has helped. So if you have any questions, or if you just want to contact me, StockTwits and Twitter, there's my handle, my website, thetraderisk.com, this YouTube channel, of course, and then there's my email. So I encourage you guys to check out some of the other channels here. I have a lot of other content for video lessons. If you're new to the channel, I welcome you to subscribe, and anything else I can help with, feel free to reach out. Thanks so much for watching, and talk to you again soon.